So we're going to jump into the 1966-67 NHL season here. And as you can see, I got my old Maple Leafs hat on. I know when you look at me, this is the old emblem and everything. I guess I need to update my stuff. It's been a while since I've kind of gone full tilt into the Leafs, like I am now, which is awesome because I can bring these videos for you and everything like that. And certainly follow along with the Leafs. They won 6-2 last night. Austin Matthews scored a goal. I wasn't worried. He was getting his chances. Meh, everybody's concerned about what happens in 3 games. Let it let it grow a little and see how the season goes and everything like that. I'm not concerned. Not concerned about their power play. Let's go. So, anyways, we're going to talk about the 1966-67 season. And certainly with the Leafs, after a couple of semifinal exits, both times by the eventual Stanley Cup winning Montreal Canadiens, I'm sure they're going into the season with some questions, some big questions. No changes have been made by Punch. There has, but there haven't been any significant additions to the club in the off season. And I'm not certain. I certainly wasn't around back then. That was a long time ago. I'm not certain what the pulse of the team was within the city, not so much within the team, because I think I've heard stories about that. Um, Essentially, when they get to the playoffs, I heard that a lot of the team members were like, "We're going to do this in spite of Punch Imlach. In spite of him, we're going to do it for ourselves to become champions." But I'm not sure what the pulse of the team was within the city or to the general Toronto Maple Leafs fan at the time. But there certainly were some questions. There had to have been. Now, at the end of the regular season, it was the Chicago Blackhawks who were killing it in the regular season. They had a great 47, 17, and 12 record and had 94 points in 70 games. That is terrific. Bobby Hall had his second consecutive 50-goal season, and he grabbed 52 goals, leading the league. Stan Mikita also had a terrific year as well, and he led the league with 62 assists and 97 points as well. And this gave him, of course, the Art Ross Trophy as he led the league in that stat. He also won the Lady Byng and the Hart Trophy as the MVP. So a terrific season from Makita here. Pierre Pilote led the league with a plus 54. And in net for Chicago, they had a 1-2 punch that Denis Desjardins, who had 22 wins, and 35-year-old Glenn Hall still kicking it. He had 19. And together they grabbed the Vezina Trophy that season as they had the lowest goals against average in the league and only led in 170 goals in 70 games. And guess what? They also had the most goals. They had 264 goals. So that's terrific. Being able to lead the league in both of those categories, you got it going. I'm guessing at the time NHL fans were thinking, hey, Chicago might be on their way to winning their second Stanley Cup in the 1960s here. In second place was the Montreal Canadiens, who were coming off 2 consecutive Stanley Cups. They had 77 points. It was Yvan Cournoyer who led the squad with 25 goals. And he also led the league in power play goals. He had 20. 20 of his 25 goals were on the power play. And he also had 7 game winners. Now, I'm not 100% sure what exactly was going on in the Montreal net, as in, I'm not sure if they were coming across any injuries, kind of like last year with the Leafs. But as I see, Charlie Hodge played 37 games, Gump Worsley playing 18, but also 21-year-old Rogie Vachon played 19. Hodge had 14 wins. Vachon had 11, and Worsley had 6. When I look at Worsley's numbers, they're a step down, much like last year. Sawchuk's numbers were a step down. This season, Worsley posted a 900 save percentage and a 3.18 goals against average. So those aren't Gump Worsley like numbers. While Vachon had a 915 save percentage, pretty good, and a 2.48 goals against average. So much better numbers there from him. Also suiting up for Montreal for his debut this year was Serge Savard. Boy, they just keep coming, don't they, in Montreal? These great young players. In third place was the Toronto Maple Leafs. They had 75 points. And rounding out the playoffs in fourth place, making a huge change this year in the standings, was the New York Rangers. They finished with 30 wins. That's 12 more than the previous season and 72 points. Rod Gilbert led the team in goals with 28, and Eddie Jacquemin played very well in the Ranger net, he grabbed all 30 of their wins, had a very nice 917 saver percentage and a 2.61 goals against average. He also had 9 shutouts, which is great too. Also for the Rangers, Harry Howell grabbed the Norris Trophy as the top defenseman, and he also had a career high 12 goals this season as well. Now, this was former Ranger goalie Emil Francis's first time, or first, not first time, first full season behind the bench. He took over last season, partway through, perhaps maybe a third of the way through, and took over from there. And it definitely looks like the Rangers are turning the corner here. They're out of the basement, back in the playoffs again. So who was the team that fell out? Well, it was the Detroit Red Wings. They've really fallen down here as they only had 58 points. Bruce McGregor led the squad with 28 goals, and they actually, in fact, had four other guys with 20 goals. So they could score. The scoring wasn't the problem. You had Norm Ullman with 26, Gordie Howe with 25, Dean Prentice with 23, and Paul Henderson with 21. What the problem was is they were second worst in goals against. Roger Crozier's numbers were not as good this year. When I look at it, he was sporting an 895 save percentage and a 3.36 goals against average. Now, when I looked on the shots, they did face 2,263 shots. Chicago, the best team in the league, team with the best goals against average, lowest goals allowed. They let 2,191 shots against them. So really, Detroit only faced 72 more shots in the entire season. That's like just over one more shot a game. Yet they let in 71 more goals. That doesn't quite add up. That shouldn't make that big of a difference. Each one of those shots is in your net. So unless otherwise told by something else, it may have been a bad year for Roger in the net, leading to Detroit falling out of the playoffs like they had here. Now in the final spot, it was the Boston Bruins. They're not improving quite yet. They had only 17 wins and 44 points. This team had the worst goals for, and they only had 182. Pitt Martin was actually their lone 20 goal scorer, and he had 20 goals. The Bruins had a three goalie system going as well, much like not going to say the previous season because I think Cheevers only played 6 games last year, but Eddie Johnston led with 34 games. He had 8 wins. Jerry Cheevers played a lot more. He played 26 games and had 5 wins. And Bernie Perron played 18 and he had 4 wins. Uh, Really good three goalie system there, but oh boy, they it's not quite working yet in Boston. They were still looking for a way back into the playoffs, but they this season have got themselves an excellent answer to getting back there, as they have rookie Bobby Orr playing his very first season in the NHL. He actually went on to win the Calder Trophy as the top rookie. He had 13 goals and 41 points to go with 102 penalty minutes. And no, Bobby was not drafted. He was signed as I believe he was 12 years old. Incredible, by the Bruins. And he was then brought through their system and was therefore then not eligible for the draft. And this was before the draft. So he was, you know, the Bruins owned him. They went out and did the work that was needed to get a hold of Bobby Orr. Yeah, it's too bad Toronto didn't, huh? But there he is. He's in Boston, and good for them because they've been kind of down and out for a while here, and they need a big push uh, to make improvements to get back in the playoffs and maybe go for a Stanley Cup here. And as well, this was Harry Sinden's first job behind the bench, first season, I'm sorry, behind the bench for the Bruins. So to take a deeper look into the Leafs now, they actually only had two 20 goal scorers. Ron Ellis led the team with 22, and Jimmy Pappin, he was getting more playing time this year. He had 21. Dave Keon led the team with 33 assists and 52 points. Pappin led the team with six power play goals, and Ellis had two shorthanded goals. So Ellis was a good penalty killer as well. I could see that. I could see it. He could really blow down the wing and cut in on the goalie. When I think of Ron Ellis, I think of that. So yeah, he would have been very good at penalty killing or trying to get that goal. And both Ellis and Pappen tied the Cornway with game winners, and they had seven apiece as well. And it was actually Jimmy Pappen that led the squad with 89 penalty minutes as well. So Toronto, they got a three goalie system going as well. Although I'm pretty certain Johnny Bauer did have an injury this year. Terry Sawchuk led the three. He played 28 games and he had 16 wins. So he's playing better this season. Sawchuk. Bauer, he played 27 games and had 11 wins. And finally, Bruce Gamble, he played 23 games and had five wins. His numbers weren't quite as good as Sawchuk and Bauer's. I think he had like a 900 save percentage and a goals against average up over three. But it was good they had him in the system and were able to play him when needed. Absolutely. And it's interesting because I think at one time there was a word out there like a three goalie system is like a three-headed monster. And I always took that to mean that that's not a good thing. And I don't see it like that. I'll always remember the junior team, the Owen Sound Attack, when they won the OHL championship. They had three goalies, and they were rotating them around, using each of them and it worked for them. Worked magnificently, I think. They won the championship doing that. So um, sometimes the three goalie system's okay. There's definitely even more of a push, perhaps, for some of these goalies to perform at a better level. And if you're not, well, we got another guy here waiting that can play net here. So I think that system can absolutely work. Now, when looking at the goal differential for the Leafs, it's interesting because they actually had a -7. So they actually let in more goals than they scored this season. And their special teams were not very good this season in Toronto. Their power play was ranked fifth out of six, and they had the worst penalty killing in the league. So if Toronto's going to go anywhere in the playoffs, I think they might need to improve these special teams. You see me smiling there, because something's gonna happen. Um, but looking at the overall ranking of the players, Ellis's 22 goals was ranked ninth in the league, and Keon's 52 points was tied for ninth as well, along with Chicago D-man Pierre Pilat. Now for the Leafs, looking at a couple of guys that were in their lineup last year, Wally Boyer. Now this is interesting. He played with the Leafs last year. That was his only season with the Leafs because in the intra-league draft, the Montreal Canadiens picked him up. And then on the same day, the Chicago Blackhawks picked him up from Montreal in that same draft. So he's now in the Chicago Blackhawks system. And then Orland Kurtenbach, he played just the one season in Toronto as well. And it was the New York Rangers that picked him up in the interleague draft. And yeah, I think he went on to play pretty good with the Rangers and may have been getting more playing time there as well. So yeah, now I'm definitely going to bring to you the lineup for the Leafs. I'm not sure if this is what the way it was. I always say this, but here we go. So a lot of the same guys are still there. So you got Keon, Mahavlich, Ellis on that top line. I got Jimmy Pappin here with Bobby Pulford and Red Kelly. And then I like that third line. You got Eddie Shack, Stemkowski, and George Armstrong. And then you got Larry Jeffrey, definitely getting more time in the lineup this year. And Brian Conacher, who was in the Leaf system. This was his rookie year. I think he finished third in Calder voting. So he had a good year. He had 14 goals. And there's I know they only have two 20 goal scorers, but they got five other guys in the teens. So that's not too bad. And then on defense, you got Timmy Horton, Alan Stanley, Larry Hillman, Marcel Pronovost, and Bobby Bond. And we got extras. We got Kent Douglas still with the squad. And then you got Mike Shaky Walton. This was, he played a few games last year for the Leafs, but he was getting more playing time this year for Toronto. And then you got John Brenneman, who they picked up from the interleague draft from the Rangers. So it's essentially like Brenneman for Kurtenbach trade with New York, you could say. And then in that, we got Sawchuk Bauer and Gamble. So that's the team you got there. And still looks good. Still got some good players coming on. Jim McKinney, who the Leafs had drafted, is playing a couple of games this season as well for the Leafs. So there you go. So that is the 1966-67 season. And next up, we're going to jump right into the playoffs for the Leafs and see how they perform. So yeah, if you like this video, hit like, subscribe. Definitely going to keep putting some videos on here about the beloved Toronto Maple Leafs. And if you want to comment on anything, go ahead and do so. And yeah, gotta love my Leafs. Go Leafs, go.